Some people don't want to win with you. They want to win over you. And the moment you react emotionally, you've already lost the game. Today I'm going to show you how to shut down toxic behavior without raising your voice, without explaining yourself, and without looking like the villain. If this mindset is hitting home, pause right now and subscribe, because everything on this channel is about turning psychological awareness into real-world power. Not motivation, not hype, control. Emotional control is the cornerstone of dealing with toxic people because it is the only real armor you have against manipulation, provocation, and psychological games, and yet most people overlook it, thinking confrontation, arguing, or exposing their feelings will somehow protect them or make the other person see reason, when in reality, it just hands over power to someone who thrives on chaos. Toxic individuals are like psychological predators. They hunt reactions, not facts, and every time you respond with anger, frustration, or defensiveness, you are giving them exactly what they came for. Proof that they can disturb your peace and that they matter in your mental space. The moment you realize that your reaction is the only thing within your control, and that controlling it doesn't mean suppressing it but strategically choosing when and how to respond, you start to change the rules of engagement entirely. Emotional control is not about pretending to be indifferent or cold. It's about maintaining awareness of your internal state and responding from a position of strength rather than impulsivity. It requires self-discipline, where even when a toxic person tries to push your buttons, you consciously pause, assess whether responding serves your purpose or feeds their agenda, and decide your course of action accordingly. Practically, this looks like listening without absorbing, nodding without agreeing, and speaking only when it strengthens your position rather than reacting to an insult or manipulation. It means recognizing triggers and patterns in toxic behavior so that when a situation repeats, your response is calm, measured, and unwavering, making you unpredictable in the best way, untouchable. Over time, emotional control becomes a signal that you are not a participant in their drama. You are the observer, the anchor in stormy seas, and toxic people instinctively back down when they realize their usual tactics no longer affect you. It shifts the power dynamic silently but unmistakably, transforming interactions from exhausting battles into exercises in maintaining composure. By mastering emotional control, you teach toxic individuals that their attempts to destabilize you are futile, and in doing so, you protect your mental energy, preserve your focus, and ensure that your life is dictated by your priorities, not by the whims of someone who thrives on disruption. Silence often communicates more power than confrontation because toxic people are addicted to the noise of your reactions. And the moment you stop giving them that noise, you stop participating in their game entirely, leaving them exposed and off balance, which is far more effective than shouting, debating, or trying to make them understand your perspective. Toxic individuals thrive on chaos because chaos validates their control. Every argument you enter, every defensive explanation you offer, every frustrated retort is like pouring gasoline on a fire they started, and the more you speak, the stronger their sense of dominance becomes. Silence, on the other hand, is a weapon disguised as calmness. When you refuse to respond impulsively, you remove their emotional leverage and create an invisible barrier that forces them to confront their own behavior without being able to manipulate yours. But this kind of silence is not passive. It is deliberate and strategic. It requires recognizing which battles are worth engaging and which are not, understanding that responding emotionally often prolongs conflict and drains your energy, and embracing restraint as a form of strength. Silence communicates that you are not reactive, that you are in control of your own emotions, and that their attempts to provoke you are ineffective, which, over time, destabilizes their power because toxic people rely on predictable reactions to feel superior. It also serves as a mirror, reflecting their aggression back at them in a way that forces them to acknowledge, even subconsciously, the absurdity or futility of their tactics, which can lead to self-doubt, retreat, or at least hesitation. Mastering silence in these interactions is not about avoidance. It's about making a conscious choice to engage only on your own terms, using words sparingly and with purpose, so that when you do speak, it carries weight, authority, and clarity, leaving no room for manipulation. Ultimately, silence turns you from a participant in someone else's emotional storm into the calm at its center, signaling a level of confidence and control that toxic people instinctively fear because it exposes their inability to influence you and protects your energy, your focus, and your peace without ever raising your voice. Boundaries change how people treat you without saying a word because they create an invisible map of what is acceptable in your presence and what isn't. And toxic individuals are highly sensitive to these invisible limits, even if you never explicitly announce them. Most people assume boundaries require confrontation or explanation, but the truth is that consistent enforcement of personal limits communicates strength far more effectively than any argument. When you know where your line is and refuse to allow anyone to cross it, whether that means ending a conversation, leaving a toxic environment, or limiting access to your time and energy, you are signaling that your well-being is non-negotiable. Toxic people often push because they are testing your flexibility, looking for openings to exploit, and every time you hesitate or allow them to cross a line, you teach them that they can erode your control. Boundaries are not just about saying no out loud. They are about patterns of behavior that reinforce your standards. This might look like consistently disengaging from gossip, refusing to absorb negativity, or not responding immediately to manipulative messages. Over time, these patterns train toxic people to adjust their behavior because their usual strategies, intimidation, guilt-tripping, or emotional manipulation, no longer work on you. The key is consistency. A boundary enforced once is a suggestion. A boundary enforced repeatedly is law. Additionally, boundaries protect your mental and emotional energy, giving you space to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. They also communicate respect for yourself, and when someone sees that you value your own peace, they subconsciously begin to respect it too. Because respecting limits is the fastest way to avoid conflict with someone who refuses to react predictably. Importantly, boundaries are flexible in that they can be adjusted to match the level of toxicity, but the principle remains the same. You dictate the terms of engagement. By clearly defining your limits and holding them without drama or apology, you create an environment where toxic behavior is either minimized or completely neutralized, allowing you to preserve your energy, maintain your composure, and operate from a position of quiet authority that toxic people instinctively recognize as a threat to their usual dominance. Toxic people feed on reactions, not resistance, because their power isn't in what they say or do, it's in how you respond to it, and most people unknowingly hand them that power every single day through anger, frustration, or over-explanation. When you react emotionally, you validate their behavior, confirming that their words or actions have significance and that they can influence your state of mind, which is exactly what they want. Resistance, in the sense of arguing back, proving a point, or trying to correct them, often plays directly into their hands because toxic individuals thrive on conflict and chaos. They measure success not by truth or fairness, but by the degree to which they can provoke you and disrupt your balance. Feeding them reactions is like giving fuel to a fire they started, and the more you engage, the larger their sense of control grows. The smarter approach is to respond strategically, or sometimes not at all, shifting from reactive participation to deliberate observation. By refusing to react, you deny them the validation they seek, and this shifts the entire dynamic. They are suddenly faced with someone unshakable, someone who refuses to take their bait, and this is profoundly disorienting for people who rely on emotional leverage to feel dominant. Feeding reactions is voluntary. It is a choice. And once you understand that, you realize how much control you actually have over the situation. Resistance is often instinctive because most people feel the need to defend themselves, but defense is reactive, not proactive, and it gives the toxic person visibility into your triggers. Instead, by maintaining composure, speaking with purpose, and exercising restraint, you remove the impact of their attempts to destabilize you, turning your presence into a source of calm rather than conflict. The less they can provoke you, the less influence they have, and over time, this lack of reaction teaches them that you cannot be manipulated, undermined, or controlled. In essence, feeding reaction strengthens them, while resisting the temptation to react weakens their grip, preserves your energy, and silently communicates a level of control that toxic people instinctively fear because it exposes the emptiness behind their attempts at dominance and shifts the balance of power firmly in your favor. Strategic distance protects your energy and reputation because it allows you to interact with toxic people on your terms rather than being constantly pulled into their chaos. And yet, most people fail to recognize that proximity equals influence. The closer they allow toxic individuals to remain in their lives, the more those people's moods, opinions, and manipulations seep into their mental and emotional space. Strategic distance doesn't always mean cutting someone off completely. It means evaluating which interactions are necessary, which are optional, and which are harmful, and then acting accordingly to minimize exposure. By limiting time spent with toxic people, reducing unnecessary conversations, and creating physical or emotional space when needed, you reduce the opportunities for them to provoke, manipulate, or drain you. It is a proactive form of self-preservation, a silent declaration that your energy is valuable and that it will not be squandered on people who consistently create negativity. Importantly, this distance also protects your reputation because toxic individuals often attempt to spread misinformation, gossip, or create narratives that make you look bad. When you step back strategically, you minimize the avenues they have to project chaos into your life and the lives of those around you. Strategic distance gives you control over access, ensuring that when you do engage, it is on your terms, with full awareness and clear boundaries, rather than under pressure or manipulation. It allows you to maintain composure, think clearly, and respond intentionally, rather than reacting impulsively out of frustration or emotional exhaustion. Over time, toxic people notice that their usual tactics no longer work, that they cannot provoke the reactions they desire, and that their influence over you is shrinking, which often discourages further attempts to interfere. In essence, strategic distance is not avoidance. It is a calculated measure of self-preservation and empowerment, allowing you to conserve your energy, protect your peace, and maintain your integrity in the face of toxicity. By controlling proximity and access, you create a buffer that keeps your life, your decisions, and your emotional state insulated from unnecessary harm, sending a clear message that while they exist in the world, they no longer have the ability to dictate the terms of your life, which is ultimately the most powerful defense against anyone who thrives on disruption and control. Calm confidence disarms manipulation because toxic people rely on seeing uncertainty, doubt, or anxiety in others as a signal that their tactics are working. And when they encounter someone who remains composed, self-assured, and unshakable, their usual strategies lose effectiveness immediately. Most manipulative behavior is designed to provoke a reaction, anger, guilt, fear, or confusion, because those reactions are what give them influence, control, and satisfaction. When you respond with calm confidence instead of defensiveness or emotional outbursts, you deprive them of the very leverage they are seeking, and this shifts the balance of power without confrontation or drama. Calm confidence is more than just appearing unbothered. It's a deliberate mental state where you understand your own value, recognize the patterns of manipulation, and trust your judgment without needing external validation. This mindset acts as an invisible shield because toxic people instinctively sense when their usual tactics are ineffective, and the moment they realize that they cannot provoke or unsettle you, their attempts at control weaken, often leading them to back off or seek easier targets. Additionally, calm confidence communicates authority and presence without aggression, creating an environment in which manipulation becomes not only difficult, but futile. You project a stability that signals to toxic individuals that you are in control of your emotions, your decisions, and your boundaries, making it nearly impossible for them to exploit you. Over time, this consistency teaches them that their efforts to destabilize you are ineffective, reducing the frequency and intensity of manipulative attempts. Calm confidence also enhances your interactions with others, as it draws respect and deters interference, ensuring that both your energy and reputation remain protected. Ultimately, mastering calm confidence is a proactive strategy, a silent form of power that disarms toxic individuals not through confrontation or argument, but through the steady, unwavering projection of inner strength, clarity, and self-assuredness, which makes them realize that trying to manipulate you is a losing battle and that their influence over you has been permanently minimized. Predictability makes you weak. Composure makes you untouchable because toxic people thrive on knowing how you will respond, and every predictable reaction, anger, defensiveness, or frustration becomes a tool they can wield to control you, manipulate your decisions, or unsettle your peace. When someone constantly reacts the same way to provocation, they teach toxic individuals exactly which buttons to push, which words to use, and how to extract emotional currency from them. Predictability is essentially permission for manipulation because it removes uncertainty from the toxic person's strategy, giving them confidence that their behavior will achieve the desired effect. Composure, on the other hand, introduces unpredictability in the most effective way. You remain calm, measured, and consistent, yet intentionally responsive only when it serves your purpose. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or suppressing feelings. It means observing, assessing, and acting deliberately rather than reflexively. When a toxic person encounters someone who does not react in the expected way, their influence weakens because the emotional leverage they rely on disappears, leaving them confused, frustrated, or hesitant. Maintaining composure signals control and authority, creating an invisible barrier that protects your energy, your focus, and your reputation. Over time, toxic individuals recognize that their usual tactics no longer have power over you, which often discourages further attempts at manipulation or provocation. Composure allows you to engage selectively, preserving mental energy and preventing unnecessary drama, while unpredictability in response prevents them from exploiting patterns of behavior. It also positions you as the observer, the anchor in a storm, rather than a participant in someone else's chaos, giving you a strategic advantage in any interaction. By refusing to be predictable and embracing composure as a deliberate tool, you communicate that you cannot be controlled, provoked, or manipulated, making toxic people hesitate, rethink, or retreat. This combination of calm observation and controlled, purposeful action transforms interactions from stressful confrontations into exercises in quiet authority, where you set the terms and maintain the power silently but unmistakably, ensuring that toxicity cannot dictate the pace, tone, or outcome of your life. Your response trains people how to treat you because every interaction is a lesson in boundaries, expectations, and consequences. And toxic people are constantly testing to see what is acceptable, what is ignored, and what triggers a reaction. Most people underestimate how much power lies in their consistent responses, or lack thereof. Because every time you react to manipulation, drama, or provocation, you are unconsciously sending a message about what you will tolerate and what you won't. Conversely, when you respond intentionally, with calmness, clarity, and control, you are teaching toxic individuals that their usual tactics are ineffective and that their attempts to dominate, guilt, or unsettle you will no longer work. This training is subtle but extremely powerful. It doesn't require confrontation, arguments, or ultimatums. Instead, it relies on consistency, measured reactions, and the strategic use of silence or disengagement. For instance, if someone tries to provoke you with criticism or sarcasm and you respond with calm neutrality rather than defensiveness, over time, they learn that such tactics are useless and begin to adjust their behavior, whether consciously or subconsciously. Similarly, enforcing boundaries without drama teaches others that your limits are non-negotiable and that crossing them will have predictable consequences such as reduced access, disengagement, or withdrawal of attention. Your emotional control, selective engagement, and composure create a pattern that communicates exactly how you expect to be treated, and toxic people who rely on exploiting inconsistency recognize that they can no longer dictate the terms of interaction. Over time, this training minimizes the frequency and intensity of toxic behaviors, as they realize that attempts to manipulate or provoke you are futile. Importantly, this process doesn't require changing the other person. It only requires mastering your own responses, which shifts the power dynamic entirely. By consistently modeling the behavior you expect, you not only protect your mental and emotional energy, but also establish a reputation for strength, composure, and control that discourages toxicity in all areas of your life, leaving toxic individuals with no leverage, no influence, and ultimately no choice but to treat you with the respect and restraint you have silently demanded through your actions.